Hello and welcome to episode 12 of The Late Challenge. Usual suspects, me, Gareth Roberts, him, Paul Cope. We're kicking off with what is hopefully going to be the next stage of this enterprise, which is Patreon. So first of all, thanks very much to everyone who supported us along the way in the past 3 months or so. So all those who've watched, listened, followed us on socials, liked and shared, all of that kind of thing. We thank you for that. Much appreciated. Plenty of people have spread the word as well, which again, much appreciated. Left reviews on iTunes, all that kind of thing. But yeah, this is the next stage. So what we want to do, hopefully, is launch a second show per week for subscribers that will be available to people who subscribe via Patreon. So you can go over there if you want to support us. There are 3 tiers, £4, £7 and £10. And you can get involved in backing the Late Challenge. Because the story so far, mate, is that, our friend Matt has basically very kindly put his hand in his pocket to allow us to, be in this studio every week and record what we're doing. But like anyone, Matt hasn't got bottomless pockets. So we need people to support this if they wanted to carry on.
Yeah, exactly that. And we're very grateful to Matt, aren't we, for giving us the opportunity. Matt. Yeah, well in, mate. But yeah, as Robbo says, it can't go on indefinitely like that. And we've had a lot of people since we started, haven't we, saying as the weeks have gone on, we'd like more. We'd like you to do more stuff. And the reality is there are costs to do more. And it's not just that. What I said to Robbo from the start, I always hate it when people who are trying to launch Patreons and stuff and they're like, oh, just help us buy a new studio. Or no, it's this takes time. It takes time to prep shows and put the agendas together and talk about what we're doing, and then it takes time to record. And the reality is, like everybody else in the world, we've got bills to pay, and we want to do this as a job, don't we?
Absolutely that. So, as of June as well, people have been. I saw some people sort of, saying that they don't get it, or they don't like it, or they don't get why we talk so much about crisps and things like that. Yeah. To just be perfectly honest on that, there are some handcuffs in place, shall we say, in terms of what I do. But as of June, they will disappear. So people saying they want more Liverpool Football Club stuff, they want more footy stuff generally. Well, the plan is to do more of that, but equally we want it to be sort of shaped by what you want, particularly people who back us on Patreon. So that subscriber show, the initial plan is it'll be very similar to this show, just a second dose of it, if you like. But what we're doing is that top tier, if you get involved and commit to £10 a month, which we'll be very grateful for, and some people already have done, thank you for that, you'll be involved in something we're going to call the producers, where you get to sit on a Zoom with us and just talk about the shows, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see more of, and we will listen directly to you and tweet the shows accordingly. So, it's very much sort of up in the air about what we do and where it goes, and we're just having a go, aren't we? Ultimately, at the end of the day, lots of people said to me, we miss you, we want your own podcast, we want you to do videos. So we're having a crack, we're doing exactly that. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if we don't try, we'll never know. And you said, we literally need to work. I'm at the stage now where I'm looking at anything and everything. Saw one this morning, Blackpool Zoo is hiring a team of people to wear inflatable bird costumes to deter nuisance seagulls.
You'd be so
I think I'd be all right at that. Just legging seagulls.
Angry.
Get off! Do one!
Fucking seagulls.
Leave the flamingos alone.
We could have a new segment on the show. You arguing with seagulls.
Yeah.
Robbo argues with. That'd be like...
I'm up for it. So, if you want, if that's the road you want me to go down, then don't back us. But if you'd like to see us do more podcast videos, etc., then do support us on Patreon. And of course, if it's not for you, that's absolutely fine. And keep on watching the free show. But the free show has costs too. Will that do us, do you think, for the Patreon bit?
I think
that'll do. Yeah, so the links for that are everywhere on our social media. They'll be on the YouTube for this particular show. They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram.
On the website now.
On the website now as well. There you go. They're on the website now as well, the latechallengepodcast.com. So that about covers that section. Okay, into into the stuff of the show, and we're going to start today with the football challenge, the sporting challenge, whatever we want to call it. I'll say it's the football challenge for the sake of argument. So the Reds kept their faint hopes of top four alive with a 3-2 win over Forest. Absolutely battered them first half. One of the most dominant halves you'll see, albeit didn't sort of turn around in terms of actual goals. And then a mad second half, and Forest throwing these bombs into the box from the fella who can throw it dead far. But ultimately a 3-2 win. I think overall, though, the sort of bubble feels a little bit burst, if there ever was one, about top four for me now because of what Newcastle are doing. That Newcastle result against Spurs absolutely hammered them. And you look at their form now, mate, and it's just sort of like I've got it in front of me here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, the last 7. They've won 6 of the last 7. Newcastle. Their only defeat was to Villa, who were one of the form sides in the league. And obviously, most recent result 6-1 against Spurs, and their next game is at Goodison Park. Yeah. So it can't. To me, it doesn't offer much hope that Liverpool can do this impossible almost and get top four. Now they're about 7-1 with the bookies to do it. Do you hold out any hope that they can?
I did a while ago, and then I switched again about 2 weeks ago. But then before Newcastle played Spurs, when I was looking at the table, I was like, this could be on. If we did the thing we've done in the past, and I didn't think we were capable of this season, if I'm being completely honest, of winning every game.
Yeah.
But I was saying the same about City a few months ago, and then they've just clicked into gear. And it is funny watching how these sides who've got that experience can just click into gear and win every game. But I think even if we won every game now, we won't do it.
Yeah,
no, because of the things you've just said. When I saw what Newcastle did yesterday, and it's interesting, there's people debating this already, who's manager of the season. And I saw someone on Twitter, unrelated to our show, saying about what Newcastle and Eddie Howe have done. And when you think about what he's done, I think it's I don't know how much people. I often do this thing where I go, I think it's underrated, but I don't watch that much news, so I don't know how much people are talking about it. When everyone was thinking about the Saudi Arabians have bought it and he'll have loads of money to spend, they haven't even done that yet, have they? They bought
250 million quid.
Is that how much they spent?
Yeah, and they spent more than anyone in the January transfer window, didn't they? So,
okay. Well,
but it's not. I know what you mean in terms of it's not the absolute madness of like what Chelsea did or what City did, but they still spent a whack.
But I think, I didn't realise they'd spent that much, but I think it's more like the type of players they've bought. Do you know what I mean? What he's
that's been sensible in a way, really, hasn't it? It's like we're getting these players; these will take us to this level, and then we'll look to But
I think even if you'd have seen, because that's more money than I thought they'd spent. But I think if you saw the players they'd bought last summer and in January and said, will he take this squad from where they were, basically avoiding relegation, to where they are now? I think that's phenomenal what he's done.
It's beyond expectations, isn't it?
Yeah,
and they got to a cup final as well, and then decided to lose to Manchester United. But I mean, I think it's one of them. I'm sort of like torn by it, really. On the one hand, I'm like, obviously you can say it's a good job and they're ahead of schedule and they're into the Champions League, likely. That's a good job. But I just think, the buzz of having all that money and the buzz of the ground and the direction that they're in, there are obviously a lot of people, including me, who think that they should not be owned by those people in the first place. But they are. And, there'll be plenty of people talking about it on Tyneside, I'm sure. But, it's one of them. If that happened to us, am I meant to stop going the game, am I, because of my morals? Am I meant to say, okay, that's it for me, I'm out now, after waiting, whatever it was, 20 odd years to get a season ticket and things like that? Am I meant to now go, well, I didn't want that and they're here, so bye, or do I stay and say, well, this is my club, and like you're just owners who are fly by night, and at some point in history you will leave and someone else will have the keys. I'm not into the whole like moralizing about football and stuff. We mentioned this a lot about the humans' hypocrisy, and we're all hypocrites. And I just think people pick and choose what they want to be moralistic about. Like at the end of the day, even the World Cup stuff and like all that, and it's like blah blah. I'm like, well, I saw people at home going like, Carragher did this. Was like it sort of made a comment about having a dig at Neville and other people, like because he didn't accept any money to go and
Joe be a pundit there.
Yeah.
I was like, but you're still watching it on telly. Like, how do you think there's a World Cup? There's only a World Cup because we're watching it on telly. Every single person at home could make a stand against all this stuff, and we choose not to. Why? Because we're lazy little bastards. And like, at the end of the day, we might have a little part of us that thinks, oh, we should have supported these campaigns and stuff. But really, we just want to do what we want to do. And we want to judge other people for when they make decisions, and we don't want to judge ourselves. But like the World Cup's a perfect example. If no one watched the World Cup, they would never have had it in Qatar, and they would never do it again, would they?
No,
regardless of pundits and all this. And it's the same with Newcastle, Liverpool, City. It's always easy to judge the other people. I saw a lad we've met actually, but he's the City lad who goes on the overlap, and I saw him talking about it and about their thing, and people are saying like, would you still feel the same about all the stuff you've won if it turns out you cheated? And he was like, yeah, I'm a footy fan. Like, I'm not meant to be. Like the whole thing was
not
like,
meant to be this difficult, is it?
No, I'm not meant to be like going through the accounts to check. Do you imagine if every time we bought a player, the onus was on us to find out whether it was legitimate, like we'd broken any rules in buying him? Like that, you can't do that. We've just got to get on with being a footy fan, I think.
The Liverpool debate's gone to mad extremes, hasn't it? So, like I've said myself before elsewhere that, I wouldn't be comfortable being owned by a state, as in my football club. And then people have turned to me and said, well, have you looked into what AXA did once upon a time? And they put this money there and blah, blah. No, I haven't, to be honest. And then when I did do, I was like, I still don't think it's quite the same level as what we're talking about, like people being beheaded and, issues over people, expressing their sexuality and things like that. Like, it's just mad where footy's gone, I think. Do you know what I mean? It's mad that we're here. It's mad that we're talking about. It's mad that, fans have had to almost sort of like rise up and say, hang on, what are you doing with that? Like, we don't want a European Super League. We don't want you to do this. We don't want you to do that. We don't want you to change the name of our footy club. We don't want you to move the ground. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's absolutely mad. It's like Footy Manager on acid. Do you know what I mean?
But it is Footy Manager on acid, isn't it? Because one of my favourite, I say this about Everton now, like when anyone's talking about Everton, I always go to them, ask yourself what it would be like if money and power wasn't involved in anything in the world. And it would be a very different thing. Footy is the way it is because money and power. Yeah. That's it. Like as soon as it became dead popular,
influence,
then money and power gets involved and it changes everything. Of course it does. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, Abu Dhabi, when no entity associated with Abu Dhabi and the sovereign wealth funds were looking to buy footy clubs 50 years ago, were they? Why? Yeah, because it wasn't that popular. It wasn't.
And it's not just any footy club either, is it? It's a Premier League one. It's the one that's on the telly. It's the one with the, no one's rocking up with that kind of dough and saying, quite fancy, buying Tranmere,
But this is the funny thing, isn't it? That is even happening at a lower level now. Like
with Wrexham,
we were joking about it last week, yeah. But it's like, that's one of the reasons Gary Neville makes me laugh. He'll be criticising these wealth funds buying big Premier League clubs, but without any hint of irony that he's doing the same thing at a lower level. Yeah. Just because he's spending less money doesn't mean, if you asked all the other clubs around Salford, they'd be like, they're just the same.
He did say that.
Did they?
Because I like non-league footy. So
and Wrexham's the same, isn't it? Like Wrexham's rivals are saying, this isn't a fairy tale story. This is what happens when Hollywood movie stars come in and pump loads of money into a non-league club. Yeah. Like they used to have 3,000 fans a week and now they've got 10,000 fans a week. They're not there because they're Wrexham fans, are they? They're there because Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool has got involved and it's cool now.
To win inside, they're getting over 100 points,
I think you said to me, like, Paul Mullins, like, they're starstruck. It made me laugh at the weekend when they went up and one of the co-owners said about him, he's one of the greatest footballers in the world. I'm like, no, mate, he's just playing 3 levels lower than he should be. And that's why he looks so good.
They're talking about him playing for Wales, though, aren't they?
Are they?
Yeah, they're talking about him like getting an international go. So we'll see how that sort of pans out. Like, I mean, back to the sort of the top 4 thing. I included this in the agenda. So 538. Have you heard of them?
No,
because it felt like if I read this out, you'd immediately say at the end of it, it was 538. So 538 are like sort of a statistical organisation. What tabloids refer to as boffins, I would say. So these boffins,
I like boffins.
Yeah, boffins. They've took all into consideration, like, form, who everyone's got to play, all of that kind of thing. So they've now got, after the weekend, that Spurs have almost completely dropped out of the race for top 4. Aston Villa's draw with Brentford's knocked them out as well, and the only ones left are Newcastle, Man United, Brighton, and Liverpool. So they've got Man United 85% to get a top 4 place, Newcastle 86%, Brighton 17%, Liverpool a 10% chance, and Tottenham 2%. Feels about right, that, doesn't it? Like, it feels like, like there is a chance, a tiny one, but not a big one. Feels about right, that.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
On the Reds as well, that's you can say sort of like it's only Leeds and Forest that they've beaten, but this time of year you always say, don't you? Well, they're fighting for their lives and all that kind of stuff. They're down there. It's a difficult game. I mean, it's good to bounce back even against those sides after the 3 defeats on the spin. And Klopp talked about it, and I liked it. Whether it ends up in top 4, whether it ends up in Europa League, whatever, we will see. But I think what's also important, and I was glad he said it, was that how you perform at this stage of the season can often roll into the next one, both in terms of like morale, how the fans feel, how the players are performing, all of that kind of thing. And I think, I put there like an example for me would be when we go close to the title under Rodgers. And I can remember sort of back end of the season before, like we tonked Newcastle 6-0, and you could see something between like Coutinho and Sturridge was starting to happen, and you just thought, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of think, all this Trent experiment and that kind of thing with Liverpool, like if you look at it as we're getting ready for next season, we're obviously going to buy players. These 7 games are important in that respect.
Yeah, they're huge. And it's going to be interesting. There's loads of different moving parts, isn't it? And this ties into the Bellingham chat as well. I was thinking about after we chatted about that last week. Because there are loads of moving parts in football that most fans don't want to take into account. And where we finish in the league is a massive thing, because I've seen people talking about this in different places. Like, I'll ask you this, like, do you want, if you don't get the Champions League, would you rather finish outside European places at all? Or do you want to be in the Europa League or that other Mickey Mouse one? Yeah. And a week ago, I was thinking, no, our squad, I've had this conversation with people in the past, our squad is built, and all of the top, like City, United, Chelsea, your squads are built to play in European competition. And that's why you've got so many players. And actually, if you have that many players, but you're not in Europe, it creates a problem for you, because how do you get them all in games often enough to keep them happy? And then at the weekend, what something I thought was, but actually, it will dictate our transfer policy in the summer. But also the 5 sub things makes a difference now. Because we could, let's say we didn't have European footy next season, we could have a trimmed down squad, so we don't have to spend as much this summer. Or you could, instead of buying 5 players for 200 million, you could buy 3 players for 200 million and just have a smaller squad, because you've only got a game a week, which we're not used to. But because you've got the 5 subs, you can still keep people happy by saying, you'll be, this week you're going to play the first hour and you're going to come off, but then next week you're going to come on for the last half hour. But because I was looking at our bench and our strikers and thinking, because for all the debate about the midfield and they've been negligent, they've fucked up and all of this, they've done a good job of replacing that front 3, haven't they? When you think about it, like we probably have one of the best front 3s of all time. I don't think that's an exaggeration to say. They're up there with the any front 3 you could name. And that 5 we've got now, I wouldn't fancy playing against them. And picture that, like, I always bang on about this memory from years ago when United were playing, and whoever they were playing were holding them at Old Trafford, and Ferguson brought on Beckham and Keane as subs, but the camera was from, like, as they were coming on, was from behind them, so you could see them, with their names on the backs, but you could see the opposition players, in the background. So you could see the looks on their faces, like, for fuck's sake, I'm knackered here, and they're bringing on Keane and Beckham.
Well, that's been interesting with Nunes, isn't it? So far, he's not sort of probably starting the amount of games he wants to, but he's sort of coming on to provide an impact. But you would imagine, as he gets more up to speed, as he gets fitter, as he gets more used to, the rigours of the Premier League, he's going to be pushing, obviously, for a start. It is interesting up front, and obviously, Diaz coming back from injury as well and all that kind of stuff. They look well stocked at that end of the pitch. And, well, even this season, which has been absolutely wild, you know, like we've had what 9-0, 7-0, you know, 6, you know, all the rest of it. Like scoring goals hasn't particularly looked like a problem, and that's without Gakpo and Nunes clicking yet and fully being settled in. So yeah, that side of it's definitely a positive. Well, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about footy is schadenfreude. So
he plays for Germany, doesn't he?
Up front. So this, for those people that maybe don't know, obviously a German word, it means the emotional experience of pleasure in response to another's misfortune. The concept is common to people across cultures, but some language, blah, 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 blah. It means, the word schaden means damage and Freud means joy. So you're enjoying, you know, a rival doing badly, basically. Now, obviously, by our standards, this has been a poor season, clearly, particularly after the one that preceded it. You've got Everton in the relegation zone. You've got Manchester United who, okay, and I was gutted, to be fair. I was listening to it yesterday, driving back from Wales, and I was like, come on, Brighton.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? What are you up to here? Yeah. This is your big chance. But they get 2 on penalties. But nevertheless, it was funny. It was literally funny, or I found it funny to watch them go out of Europe the other night in the fashion that they did. And when I turned on Twitter to look at reaction, there was people saying similar, you know, like I seen a tweet from, you know, various lads that go to match saying things like, you know, it's always a good night, the night that Manchester United go over to Europe and things like that. And it was pretty hilarious fashion as well. Obviously lost 3-0 on the night to Sevilla, 5-2 on aggregate. I liked Fowler getting involved. So Fowler just tweeted a picture, and it was just him, Jamie Redknapp, and Sammy Appiah holding the UEFA Cup, the FA Cup, and the League Cup. And he just put Mickey Mouse treble. Well, obviously that Mickey Mouse treble was on until they went out to Europe the other night for Manchester United. And they were talking about it, obviously. Pundits were, fans were, all the rest of it. All of a sudden now they're out. Still got the opportunity, to be fair, to win 2 domestic trophies, which is what we did last season, ultimately, albeit that we also went so close for the league and the European Cup. But are you one of those fans? Do you get like that schadenfreude? Do you enjoy the demise of a rival? Do you like having a bit of a laugh about it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think anyone who says no, I think about this a lot about humans. Like, I think that's just a normal human reaction, right? And loads of the stuff I've worked on over the past few years and studying stuff like this, there's loads of stuff that are just dead natural human things. And the reason we don't admit them is we're ashamed of it. Do you know what I mean? We're a bit embarrassed about it, or
we should be better than that.
I've had people say that to me in the past, like, you should be better than that, Kopi, like laughing at Everton or getting joy because United are shit or whatever. I'm like, why? Like, it's funny. They do the same. Like, it's part of sport. It's part of life. I just don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's funny. And especially if you're doing shit, what else? You've got to get some pleasure from somewhere.
It's funny even about like social media, isn't it? I've had people say to me that, you know, they'll go like, in terms of like career or jobs, talked about that at the start, you know, obviously I'm trying to get one. And they'll say things like, well, you know, if you're looking to get a job and why would you whack out, you know, a tweet sometimes like buzzing off Everton or United? And I'm like, because it's my Twitter account, my character, and I am buzzing off them in that particular. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Like, well, is someone really who's recruiting somewhere and I apply for the job, going through my Twitter, seeing a thing where it buzzed off Man United and going, oh no.
Well, my thing is, if they are, I don't want to work for them.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
So, because
we've all got affiliations. I've never liked the thing, and it's better now, I think, in the modern world, that like everyone you watch on telly, you basically know who they support. And I'm all right with that. Like, I'm all right with Neville being biased towards Man United. I'm all right with him supporting Man United. I'm Ferdinand and all that. That's just fine. As long as when they're talking about footy, they're doing a good job and they're being as neutral as they can be and objective, which I think they all are, by the way. And I often think it goes the other way with pundits on telly. Like, Carragher's harsher on Liverpool than he is on other clubs. And you'll sometimes
get... almost show that he's like,
and Neville does the same sometimes. And you'll often get them arguing against each other about their own clubs. Do you know what I mean?
Well, Keane definitely is about Man United, isn't he? It's never happy no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the, speaking of Man United, one of the moments of schadenfreude that always sticks in my mind, and sort of, similar in a way in that, we're having, what is essentially a poor season, but we still find something to enjoy in it. Going all the way back to 1992. So April 92, we played United at Anfield, beat them 2-0. And that was the end of their title challenge that season, and Leeds won the league. But, I was there, and I can remember, and I enjoyed looking it up the other night when I was making this agenda. I can remember us all singing on match, "She lost the league on Merseyside," because, we obviously knew that like having it rubbed in your face like that by a rival, even though this rival can't win it themselves. Because we've done that, haven't we? Like that's another mad footy thing. So we'll say like, why are these blades singing like Demba Bar?
I was just about to say that to you. Like, how many times have we had to hear that song from fans? And we think, what's it got to do with you? Like, it's got nothing to do with you. When they're just like, it's funny though, innit?
But they know it, because they know it's getting under your skin. They know it's winding you up. And us going, what's going on? Even when you're like, if you're at a game, like City did it the other week when they beat, I went to City game away, and they were singing it, and you're looking at them going, why are you singing this now? And like, cause you're screaming up your face and going, what? Why? They're made up. That's what they want. That's the reaction they want.
But think about it. It's like little kids, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I remember my mum saying to me, I've got a big sister, like when we were kids, I used to wind her up all the time. I remember my mum saying to her once, just ignore him and he'll stop. And I can still remember, I must have been about 6, and I did something to wind her up, and she ignored me once, and I thought, nah, I'll try again. And I tried again, and she ignored me again, and I literally went, it's no fun anymore then, is it?
Doesn't work.
Stopped.
Yeah.
But that's all it is. It's the childish part of us coming out. And it's fun, as long as you can like take an adult approach to it in a way and just be like, if you see you're reacting to it, or it's being done to you, and you just go, I'm fine, it's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I hear Chelsea fans, City fans, whoever winding up Liverpool fans now, I'm just all right with it. Because I'm like, yeah, it's funny.
It's part
it's just part of the game.
It's part of it.
It's a game we're playing.
But you also can't help yourself, or I can't at times where I'm like, I'll still get caught in the cycle of it. I'll still, why are they saying that? Why do they do it? Because you just, but when you sit down and you talk about it like we are now, cup of tea, podcast, not at the game, emotions not at the same level, you're like, yeah, it's just because of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just because of that. But that's the way it is. I had all kinds here. There was some psychologists who looked into this, and they found that, team supporters of one team, in this case, it was that they were Dutch psychologists. So like when themselves in Germany have obviously got a big like international football rivalry if you like, and they were all like turning over to see how German TV was reacting to Holland doing well, and also turning over to see how German TV reacted when Germany were getting beat.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like just lapping that up, just sitting there going And again, it's like really childish, isn't it? But like there is a joy there, and like I enjoy even that there's a word for it, albeit that it is German.
Well, doesn't that speak volumes?
Yeah,
there's a word for it. Yeah, there's only a word for it because so many humans experience it. Otherwise, if it was just a minority thing, there wouldn't be a word for it, would there?
But I was going to ask you, and you've sort of touched on it. I mean, you've mentioned that it's childish. Do you think it lessens in older age, or you just think it's still there knocking around?
I think it's still there knocking around. I think this is fascinating just from the human psychology side. Just because you get older in number of years on the planet doesn't mean you mature. And that's what I'm seeing.
Did you used to think that when you were a kid, by the way? Did you used to look at whoever, your dad or adult figures, and think like you totally changed?
Yeah.
But when you got to that, so did I. And yeah,
I couldn't comprehend. I realised as I got older was when you're a kid and you see old people, and even when I say old, like my dad when he was 45 was old to me. Well, I'm 43 this year. So, yeah. But to me, like I didn't comprehend he'd been a child. And I have this with the Joe stepkids now. Like when you talk to them about you being a child, you can see it's hard for them to comprehend. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're just a grown up to them. Old people are just old people when you're a kid, aren't they?
Yeah. But it's mad that, like, I don't know, like this concept, almost like an idea where you think you're going to totally change. You're going to be like almost like a different person. Like we all, there's a whole thing in society, isn't there, about like you mature and you become wiser and all this. I still laugh at the same daft stuff that I did when, probably when I was a kid. Like I still find toilet humor funny. I still laugh at stupid things. You know what I mean? Like one of my favorite things, and I'll get stuck into social media a lot and its effect on society. But one of my favorite things about it is just daft stuff like dogs running into windows, or cats falling off the couch or whatever. Like I love all that daft stuff because it's just because it's daft.
Yeah, well, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll still laugh if I see someone trip over in the street. And if I'm the one who trips over in the street, I'll laugh and I'll look up to see if anyone saw me, to see if they're laughing. And I won't be like, oh, how dare you laugh at me? I'll be like, it's funny when you see someone, as long as they're not hurting themselves, it's just funny. But even asking that question, do you think people change, mature, should they grow up and all that? I think it's two different things. There's one side, is the idea that we mature emotionally and we get better at handling life and stuff like that? Yes. And at the same time, that doesn't mean you can't laugh at the stupid things you laughed at when you were 5. Yeah. And this is something I realised over the past few years. Think about how many people are world famous and multi-millionaires at the top of their profession, because that's what they do. I was watching the other week, Adam Sandler got some comedy award in the States, which is obviously a big deal. I'd never heard of it, but it was obviously a big deal. I had all people there giving him tributes and all that. Look at Adam Sandler's comedy. People were telling stories about him turning into a interview or whatever they're called with a pencil up his arse and just doing stupid voices and then in England, Vic and Bob. I love Vic and Bob. Keith Lemon, people like this. Yeah. They're literally doing childish fucking humor. Yeah. And it's hilarious. I love it. So there's no part of me that goes, no, you've got to grow past that. I think part of growing up is being able to just laugh at the things you want to laugh at. And yeah, you can be mature when you've got to pay the bills and all that. That's that side of it.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, one other thing, you spotted a tweet from Carragher, who got a mention before. He tweeted out, would Liverpool fans rather Man City win the FA Cup and go on to win the treble, or would they rather see Manchester United win and they end up with 2 cups this season? Obviously, it is City against United in the FA Cup final. Where are you on that one? Well, I can see where you're at because I can see the tick against the vote.
Well, exactly. And it's funny because that's why I sent it to you, because when I clicked it, I was surprised at the way the result is. So I wanted to ask you, what's yours?
Well, at the point that you've screenshotted it and sent it to me, there was 57,000 votes and 65% had voted Man City. You obviously got to take into consideration that anyone can click that poll, and so it's not just going to be Liverpool fans.
True.
Do you know what I mean? So City fans will all dive on it or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good question, isn't it? Which is obviously why he's put it there and why you sent me it as well, because to me, obviously, still to this day, United are the actual rivals, and I still think it's weird with City. Even though, when I went the other week and when I've been any time to that ground now, I can feel, that there's a level of hate there now, and there's a bit of bile, and it's not. It's not the way it once was. It's not like when you went to Main Road type of thing.
It has changed.
It changed 100%. Yeah. But then equally, I just think with all the 100+ charges hanging over them and the money they spent and the various, that German website, which I always forget, but they did absolutely loads on what City have been doing behind the scenes for years and all that. I just think with all that hanging over them, so you went on about him who said, it doesn't bother him. He's a footy fan and he doesn't care. From my perspective, I'd twist it and say, but it does that with the values. It devalues it the way you've gone about things, in my mind. That's how I'm justifying it anyway. So to me, if they win the treble, arsed.
Really?
Yeah.
So you would rather see them win the treble and see United win the FA Cup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
That's interesting.
Because we won that cup double last season, didn't we?
Yeah, well, as you were saying that before, I was thinking that you'd get United fans saying, well, their season this season was as good as ours. And I'd just say it's not. Yeah. I'd just say that's bullshit. There's still context and there's still performance.
And also there's that thing, isn't there, as well? Almost like a league table, if you like, of who are the most successful teams ever.
Yeah.
And it's always us and United right at the top, obviously, for obvious reasons. City aren't anywhere near it.
City are miles off it.
So it doesn't matter if they clock up some financially doped trophies now, if you like.
Yeah.
I don't want United adding to their haul.
I get that, and that's why for me it was That's why I wanted to send it to you, because it's a good question. It's a difficult one, and I am torn. I could be persuaded either way. But for me, it's financially doped or not financially doped. I don't want to see Man City do the treble. I just don't want to see it. It was horrible watching United do it back in the day. And obviously, yeah, there's no comparison between the rivalries.
There's a thing whereby it makes you feel a bit icky about footy if they do it.
Yeah, I think there's partly that, and partly for me, like, I don't want there to be two Manchester clubs who've both done the treble when we've never done it, and it is so hard to do. And but I'd rather they won the FA Cup and Real Madrid knocked them out in the semis. You know?
Well,
like,
yeah,
there's your easy. That's the easy way out of it, isn't it?
I think I'm pinning my hopes on Real Madrid being Real Madrid, and as horrible as they always are, and managing to upset the apple cart that way. Seamlessly moving on to Real Madrid's rivals, Barcelona.
Nice.
This is my fact of the week section. FC Barcelona's world famous strip, which we all know. We know the colours of it, and have you ever had it? Have you ever had the shirt?
Yeah,
so have I. Yeah. So that originates from Crosby.
How?
So basically, the story goes that there were two fellas, Arthur and Ernest Whitty, who were involved in the creation of Barcelona back in 1899. And they both went to Merchant Taylor's School in Crosby. And the colours are the same as Merchant Taylor's rugby team. And so they suggested these colours. And that is then what the club went on to wear and still play into this day. Now, it's one of them where you're like, is this really true?
Yeah,
like
every part of my body's going, you've made this one.
I know. But like I've Googled around it and everything, and it's even mentioned on Barcelona's actual site.
Really?
Like there are other little theories about like it being inspired by Basel and things like that and their colours. But no, they've got it on their own site. They mentioned these two fellas. They definitely went to Merchants. And so, yeah, I'm having it. Arthur and Ernest Whitty, they back in 1899, the Mersey-educated pair suggested those colours.
But even in, I mean, it's a great fact, mate. Another one. But even the fact they played a key role in the creation of Barcelona, full stop. We've got to.
Well, there's a little. Have you done the tour and all that at Barca?
No, but I've got a funny story about Real Madrid. I'll tell you in a minute.
But think about Barcelona's badge. There's a little St George's Cross in it, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
Because of the role of Englishmen in the.
Is that what it is?
In the creation of the club, yeah.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why. But why? This is another one. When you come into Liverpool, these should be fucking listed, shouldn't they?
I know.
Banging on about it all the time. Every time someone mentions Barcelona on telly, we should be like, we outperform them.
Yeah.
That's our kit.
I remember going there as well. Back to being sort of both childish and looking for some reason, to big up your own club. I went on that tour a long, long time ago, talking 99, 2000, something like that. And I remember wandering around and I had a Liverpool FC polo on, and some woman in the shop was trying to get us to do one of them pictures where it's you in a black version of whatever. I was like, nah, I'm all right. And then she was like, who's that LFC? And I was like, you joking? We won, we're not reading off how many European Cups won and all that. But what I loved was when I went round the museum, obviously it's all about them and it's what they've won and it's celebrating them and etc. But there's just in one glass case, there was this book open on a page where when Liverpool beat them. And I was like, get in, the Reds are in Barca's museum. And, took a picture of me pointing at it and all that. I am that childish and always have been.
But what's funny about that? We've got a very similar story without knowing it. What I was about to tell you then is I haven't done the tour of the new camp, but I've done the tour of the Bernabeu.
Yeah.
And when I got to the end, at the end of the Bernabeu, they've got the exact same thing. The end of the museum tour. It's a boss museum, and
it's amazing.
Joe looked up McManaman stuff and all that, which was great, and Owens in there and all the rest of it. And when I got to the end, and they're all there, dead excited for with their Blaggy European Cup for you to get your photo with and all that, and everybody else there is getting their photo done, and I was just like, no thanks, and they couldn't believe it. They were like, what do you mean, no thanks? And I was like. I remember he said, because it was after we'd won in Istanbul, must have been a few years after, I just went, we've got one. We've got the real one. I don't want to need a photo with your blag one. And because the language barrier, they didn't understand what I was talking about. But I was buzzing off the fact they hated it. They were like, why wouldn't you want a photo with our European Cup?
Yeah, their museum's mad though, isn't it? In like how it sells them. I mean, don't get me wrong, again, this is a football thing, isn't it, and all that, but I've been to various places like that. I've been to Ajax's and stuff like that. And I just thought theirs in particular sold it as though like we are the team.
We're football.
Because they had some like sort of like interactive map, I think, if I remember rightly, like some like digital thing on the wall showing like this is how many supporters we've got all over the world and all that kind of thing. And I always think that's slightly blagged, that like United always do that, don't they? Like we're the biggest football club in the world because we've got X number of followers on Facebook or something. You're like, oh yeah, because there's no way to blag that, is there? There's no way to, massage those figures, is there? And I just thought more than ever, more than any other place I've been in, the sort of the arrogance of it was dripping from everything. Do you know what I mean?
But it does drip from them, doesn't it? Like, and even when we said before about wanting them to knock out City, there's still a part of me that goes, I feel dirty about that though. 100%. Because I don't want them to win another one. I'm just sick of them just racking up European Cups now. And even the Ancelotti thing after they beat us, and like him being, and I love Ancelotti and he's cool and all that. But there was even an element of that. It was like, oh, fuck off, Carlo. Do you know what I mean? Don't you be joining in with the fucking arrogance of it all.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do the crunching challenge. You are now just one behind me because Doritos Chili Heatwave won last week's vote, significant in terms of its win, 62% or 62.8% of the vote. I thought
voting numbers though there, aren't there?
I know, 674 votes.
I was surprised by your selection though, to be honest.
Well, as ever, like we got some tweets about it where people were like, that's a great shout, that type of thing. But just not enough people agreed with Seabrook, Worcestershire sauce flavour. So yeah, that's 6-5 to me now.
It's a late comeback here, isn't it?
I know.
On the quiet.
We're kind of saying that we want this to be the last week's crisp one anyway, and then we'll maybe do something else, biscuits, chocolate, whatever. But obviously we're now at a scenario where it could end up being 6-6 and then we don't have an overall winner. And before we get this week's choices out, we've got to give a shout out to Liam. He sent a letter in and a present. He says, "Hi lads, I hope you're well. Loving the podcast, especially the crunching challenge. I recently bought a laser engraver as an impulse buy, and I'm currently lasering anything and everything in sight. Nothing is safe. I noticed you don't have any coasters for your drinks, and I took it upon myself to make you some. The first version was embarrassingly shit. Harsh on yourself there, mate. So he says, thanks to Robbo for even entertaining it, because he sent me a message about it. He said, I've included it anyway as a spare. Up to you guys if you want to do a weekly changeover, or just the overall winner gets to keep. And for sure, I'll be making something for the biscuits when that starts." So there you go. That's from Liam. He also he added a PS. He said, "I'm still fuming. Paul picked Quavers as early as episode 2. I can't be in the same room as someone eating them. They smell rotten. Some people would argue nuclear bombs are the worst thing man has ever made. I would argue Quavers." Liam with strong opinions there about Liam. Quavers.
I'm furious because I picked it in week 2. Well, in no Liam.
I want you to see these. I don't know how we can best do this. Am I best walking up to a camera? So there's what he's saying is that, oh, fucking hell. I've only just got onto that. On the back it says finger licking knick-knack nonce.
Does it? Well, in Liam, that's a great touch.
So that's the winner's one. Can you see that, Jacob? Yeah, this is obviously, sorry if you're listening, doesn't really work if you're listening, but this is for the video. Finger licking knick-knack nonce on the back.
Lovely.
And then there's a loser one as well. And that's got something on the back as well. That's the loser one, and on the back it says Tory crisps.
Nice.
And then this is
QR codes.
They are. I don't know what they're going to be. I'll have to try that out after the show. And then this is the original one he did, which he's getting on his own back about. But I thought that was good as well. So we do now have coasters. I've lost the last one, so I'll be loser for now. You can be winner because you won last week, but there's yours. And then we've got this spare one. So yeah, thanks very much for that, Liam. Absolutely brilliant. Love that. And we will be using those coasters. And get off your own back. They're great, mate. Enjoy your laser engraver. So this week then, what have you got? Your crisps.
I've gone, well, I think I said last week, because we said it was going to be the last week we did it. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. These are my favourite crisps growing up, and I always have them, and they're just classics. But the Walker's smoky bacon.
Okay, yeah, classic.
And someone did say online a couple of weeks ago, Golden Wonder smoky bacon, and it made me go, ooh. So I bought a packet of Golden Wonder smoky bacon just to compare, and I had to say, like, I think like if there's anything, Joe Walker's is the more Tory option. Golden Wonder's more like the working class man, I would say, but they're just not as nice. I don't think Walker's smoky bacon are just absolute belters for me.
So I'm really torn this week, so much so that like even right now I've got two bags because I thought, well, it's the last one, and so I've really been overthinking it.
Yeah,
and I still don't know what actual bag to pull
out.
Well,
I'll be honest, because I forgot we were going to do this as the last week, so I had them anyway. I already had them ready, but then this morning I went to get a different bag. I'll tell you what they are in a minute in case you've bought them.
Well.
But I couldn't get them. In the shop.
I'm going off the fact that, you know, we've long since established that I actually want to win the thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm going, I think, for one that people are more likely to vote for just because because it's going to get complicated if it's a draw. We'll just end up going forever. So I've gone for thinking more people will vote for them, and I could obviously be wrong. I do like them. Transformer snack. I've gone for the toddler's crisp this
Transformer snack.
Transformer snack spicy. Have you not had them?
No.
Oh, they're belters, them, mate. They are good. And they've got a story which
Golden
I like
Wonder
as well.
I've never
Golden
had that.
Wonder, yeah. So, we're on the Golden Wonder truck. They say, on a mission to bring you the most heroic taste in the universe, you can make out of this world cars before experiencing a fantastic flavour journey and a crunch that's on another planet. As Transformer snack are baked, not fried.
I've just noticed on the front, you can actually put them together to make things.
Yeah, so they've got wheels and that, and a little sort of willy-shaped middle section.
Nice. That's the shape of your willy, lad. We've got problems.
So that's what I've gone for. But the reason...
Go on, what was the other thing you were thinking of?
That won't be in the vote, but the other ones that I was torn on. But, both are Golden Wonder, so I'm happy on that score. So my other ones were cheese and onion Ringos, because I used to absolutely love them, and they're old school.
Yeah.
And, part of me was thinking, well, the demographic of people who are listening to the show, will they remember them? Will they vote for them? But then I've seen a lot of anger about cheese.
Cheese hasn't done well.
Yeah, cheese hasn't done well.
I was thinking about it in the shower this morning before I went to shop. Like, I went 1-0 up, didn't I, with finger licking knick-knack nonsense.
Yeah.
And then I think I lost the next 4, and most of those selections were cheese.
Cheese-based,
and I didn't get onto the fact that until it was too late that it wasn't, they just weren't popular. But you know what's interesting, if these are going to be the last ones, we're going to say they're the last ones, and then, because we can...
Unless it's a draw, and then we'll have to do a decider.
Okay, well, I'll save this for next week then. I want to talk about the things we haven't chosen and why. There's some things we haven't chosen yet that, let me try something.
So, the other thing that I haven't mentioned while you try that is, and I can't believe we've reached this stage. This is episode 12, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've covered
3 months we've been doing this. That's mad, isn't it?
I know. And we've done 24 different bags of crisps and never once clashed, which is amazing in itself. My granddad, which I somehow haven't mentioned, worked for Golden Wonder.
Did he?
Yeah. So this is another reason why I wanted to do Ringo's, because he worked for the Golden Wonder factory. It was in Widnes. And he worked there for years. He got the old chestnut gold clock and all that. And yeah, he used to bring like Ringo's home, pot noodles, all various flavours, obviously, of crisps. So like my crisp love is both genuine and long-standing. And, nice that I can give me granddad a little shout out. So yeah.
That is nice. Well, and I wanted, because my brain's addled at the moment. You shared this on Twitter, and we talked about it before we started recording, didn't we? We haven't mentioned this yet, about what I want to share with people listening and watching who aren't following us on Twitter. What happened to your crisps last week?
Oh God, yeah. So like,
probably
people on Twitter will have seen it, but respect the fact that not everyone's on there. So obviously last week I turned up minus me crisps, and I just had to explain what I picked and said. And I think I said on the show,
they were on. You said I know where they are in my house. They're on the side in the kitchen or something.
And that's what I thought. I thought I'd left them on the worktop by the tea, the coffee, the sugar, that kind of stuff. Anyway, when I got back after the show, they weren't there. And I was thinking, Well, that explains why I didn't pick them up and take them then, because they weren't there in the first place. And I was thinking, well, what's happened there? And I genuinely didn't have any explanation. And then, like, he made something to eat, threw something in the bin, and there in the top on the bin, on the top of the bag in the bin, was the crisp packet. So I'd got in wellied, coat in the bath and all that, as discussed last week. And Addicts, the crisp for the crunching challenge.
I love it. So I just get a message after the show saying, turns out I didn't forget those crisps. I've ate them when I got in last night. And do you know what I love about that? When I talk about like us all having multiple personalities and stuff, our pissed character who's just come in and doesn't give a shit, does he?
And he's not asked one
bit. Yeah, he's sort of had a McDonald's somewhere. You don't know where he's had that. Doesn't give a shit that you need them for the next day. He's gone, I'll eat them.
He can get some in the morning. Yeah. No, he can't. He's going to turn up without the crisps and have to embarrass himself. Brilliant. Okay, we still got a bit of time left, so we are going to do one more section, which is the media challenge. Spotted this one, Kobe, and just thought it was interesting because I'm wondering where you are on it. Now, I've been told by other people, and I'm pretty accepting of the fact myself that I am a bit of a phone addict, and like those those reports that the iPhone kicks out saying like last week you were on your phone an average of, my averages are not good, like really? They're like 7 hours and things like that, and so I know I need to do something about that, and I know that I know it doesn't particularly make me feel good at times and all that, and the scrolling thing isn't a good thing, and more and more psychologists are jumping on this kind of thing and saying it's not generally good, this for mankind or whatever, humankind. And like you look around sometimes, don't you? I don't know if you do this, but I look around sometimes, like you be on the train or whatever, or in some setting, and you just look and everyone is on the phone, face down. Do you know what I mean? And it's like no interaction with each other whatsoever, not even looking at outside. Do you know what I mean? Like I was thinking the other day, I know you don't like travel up that way much, so that's your excuse. But when you said you didn't even realise how far Everton Stadium had reached.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was thinking, I wonder if there are people who are actually on the train going past it and they just don't look out the window, because they're looking at the phone.
Yeah.
But anyway, on this kind of field of this topic, there was a piece in the Times a few days ago. It said phone addicts scroll through 3 miles of content a year. It says the habit is straining eyes, cramping hands, and causing anxiety across Britain. Now, the mad one, and I love when newspapers or even people who are putting out press releases come up with like facts. I've been in a position where I've been doing this myself. So they say the average phone user scrolls the equivalent. Can't speak today. The equivalent of 96 meters every week, the height of the Elizabeth Tower, which of course, as we know from previous shows, houses Big Ben. So we're scrolling. Like if every time you scrolled, you moved upwards, we're scrolling the height of the tower that Big Ben's in every week on your phone. It's mad, that, isn't it?
Yeah. So your thumb is doing more exercise than the rest of your body, probably.
And like it talks about like hand cramps and repetitive strain injury, this kind of stuff. 1 in 10 people are staring at their phone for more than 5 hours a day. Shit, only 5. A quarter of us spend at least 3 hours a day. And it's a survey and all that, and it comes with the usual caveats about trusting those things and all the rest of it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it and like sort of where it's gone? And it talks about this thing as well, text claw. So that's like your hand cramping up into like almost like a claw because you've had your phone in your hand and you're just scrolling and messaging and whatever. I can't say that's really happened to me. Eye strain is another thing that gets mentioned. Headaches, dry eyes, but of course, as I touched on, mental health as well. So it can lead to anxiety, low self-esteem, blah, 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 blah. They're the most common complaints. Disturbed sleep, reduced productivity. Experts recommend those who want a cup phone, you switch to a basic handset. So you meant to just go and buy some shit burner from the shop.
I've thought of doing that.
Have you?
Yeah. It's crossed my mind.
And then they spoke to an expert in this piece, as they always do. And he says about using monitoring apps such as Off Time, which block notifications and provide insight into your habits. He also added, if you still find yourself repeatedly reaching for your mobile Why not try the novelty of a phone cage, physically locking away your mobile for a set period of time? Now, I don't think she'd be listening, which is probably a good thing. But my ex used to always say that. It's like, just have like a couple of hours a day where you just turn the phone off, put it away, and like, don't do anything at all phone related. I'm like, yeah.
Because when you started this before, I was thinking, it always reminds me, because whenever anyone talks about like social media or phones or modern technology, or we're doing it now with AI, there's always that thing of like, this is awful, this is the devil, blah, blah, blah. And I remember someone a few years ago, Joe, that point you said about, Joe, when you're on the train, everyone's on their phone and everyone's like, that's awful. And especially the older you get, the more people go, it's awful, that. And someone tweeted this, shared this photo, I don't know where it was. And it must have been like the 1920s, and it was a bus. And all these, Joe, it was all like gentlemen all in suits, like they all used to dress in suits back then.
Papers.
And they all had papers. But every one of them had a paper up, like covering their head. So like they couldn't see anybody else. They weren't interacting with anybody else. And they're just buried in a paper. So part of me goes, well, nothing's really changed, has it, on that score? But then, as you're telling this last bit, I'm laughing to myself thinking, yeah, but none of them fellas were going home and the wives were saying to them, you need to lock that paper in a cage for 2 hours a day. Like that wasn't happening, was it? Because the problem with these things, and it is mad, because lots of people watching, listen, won't know. I had an online gaming company at one point. And so I did loads of research and study into how to make it successful and how are they built. And so I learned loads about all this years ago. And I read a book called Hooked. And it was what made me decide I didn't want to do it anymore, really. Because it was like, it's all about building viral loops that keep you, or addictive loops that keep you there. And it's release. All about dopamine hits and all this. And it is literally built to keep you addicted to it. Like I've listened to loads of this stuff over the years. You're up against billions, multi-billion-dollar industries, like knowing how to keep you addicted to it. That's what you're up against. So actually, it sounds mad putting it in cages and things like that, but it is a proper addiction. And
100%.
Everyone can be light-hearted about it and stuff. But I've said in the other work I do for ages, everyone's an addict. In the world we live in now, everyone's an addict. We just have some addictions that society's decided are not good, and the rest are not only like accepted but encouraged. But they're just as bad for you. Like the damage this shit is doing to people is real damage. And we talked about sleep weeks ago, didn't we? And I've seen a noticeable difference. Like I turn my phone off now at night. Like I'll put it on airplane mode like 8 o'clock most of the time. This is not. I'm still working on this because I'm trying to break an addiction. And I don't put it on first thing in the morning. So I'll leave it off for an hour first thing in the morning, let myself like wake up properly before. Because what I realized was, and again, it's dead funny, like living with two young boys now, like, and watching them and seeing how their behavior changes and stuff. And I keep saying to my girlfriend, like, but they're just little humans, aren't they? So I'm starting to model whatever we do to them that helps them sleep, helps them wake up in a better mood. I'm doing it with me. So like we've stopped them watching YouTube late at night. We've stopped them watching YouTube first thing in the morning, because I just started observing things. Like if you watch, like, just observe from a distance, like a Disney cartoon, and then observe a YouTube channel and watch the difference in like the flashing lights and you're like all the things that are going into your brain and stimulating the brain. It's completely different. And when you're flicking through TikTok or flicking through Twitter, that's what's happening to your brain's taking in all this shit. It's getting bombarded. And that didn't happen with newspapers either. And that didn't happen with old TV shows. Do you know when I showed that clip last week, which didn't work great on a podcast for people listening because it went silent for ages. But when you see like the difference in the colours even, do you know what I mean? Like that back then, everything was quite dull. It was slow moving. It wasn't bombarding your brain.
There is like an overload thing, isn't there, with all of this? It's like, it just permanently feels like you're in the middle of Times Square or something. Because like the amount of people, like I went to Wales at the weekend and just like really basic things, like just sitting there for a minute and like looking at the hills in the middle of nowhere in Wales. I was like, this is boss.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because for once, I'm not like, listen to this, watch this, blah, 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 take this in, it was just like, I actually relax. And I used to have the same, I used to always go to like the west coast of Ireland, quite remote part of it, like, and it was the same there. You could literally feel at times like the sort of stress like come off your shoulders almost, because it was like, there was certainly times, I think it's improved now, but there's times where we used to go absolutely years ago, couldn't get a signal there. So, you know, you were forced into jibbing your phone off.
Yeah.
And it was like, so you'd do things like go for a walk, or just really read a book, like, or just watch the sea at times, because you could literally see like the sea out of the back window.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, this is probably like this is closer to what we're probably programmed to do, 100%. Isn't it?
But this is why like loads of the sleep stuff I've watched in the past, because I've been getting more and more into it. One of the big things loads of different people say is you need to get real sunlight in your eyes, like early in the day. That works, because, but then when you think about it makes sense, doesn't it? Like in the olden days, you would wake up and you would have sunlight in your eyes to tell your system that it's now daytime.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like we're in the dark, we wake up in a dark room and the first thing we do is pick up a phone and start staring at like these images flashing in our brain. That can't be good
like
for
if
you,
you're in an office all day and things like that. Yeah, it's all a bit mad.
I mean, this is a deep one. I know some people like me talking about my psychedelic experiences, but I only remember this a few months ago, because we've been talking about AI loads and all that. On both of my psychedelic trips that I went on, so one was ayahuasca and one was psilocybin mushrooms. There was a couple of things in common with both of them, which is mad, because they're both from the land. Do you know what I mean? They're from the earth. They both gave me this. I got the same message from both, which was humans are going in the wrong direction. You're integrating with machines when you should be integrating with the planet. And I remember waking up being like, deep that, isn't it?
That is deep.
But think about that. You feel better. I went 100%. For like a 2-hour walk in the woods yesterday with the family, and you feel better.
Oh, 100%.
Being around the trees, around nature.
Even like, you know, I know it's not for everyone, like, but I used to go, and I haven't done it for a long time, but I used to go fishing. And like, you know, again, that feeling where you just like relax and like, you know, all the pressure goes off. You'd get that from just sitting outside with a piece of water in front of you.
Yeah.
Like I like used to go sometimes. I genuinely wasn't asked if I caught anything, because it was chilling me out that much. I was like, anyway.
But well, look, last point of this, I watched, and I know people have got mixed views on him, as there always are with billionaires. But Elon Musk, and he gave a boss interview and I was watching that, and he said this one thing which I loved. He said, it's like every day the internet and the news is trying to answer the question, what's the worst thing that happened on Earth today? And that's what it's showing you.
Yeah.
And you think, yeah, that's true, isn't it? It's like years ago, like those fellas in those papers in the 1920s, they might have been getting bad news. And once the papers got onto the fact that, or the media got on the fact that bad news sells more, 100%. Then we were all fucked.
Negativity, conflict, all of that 100%. Sells.
But now that it's global, it's like the number of times I'll go to my mum's and she'd be like, have you heard the news? And I'm like, no. And it's like, she's presenting it to me like someone I know closely has died.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, there's been a flood in Sri Lanka. And I'm like, well, that's really bad for the people in Sri Lanka, isn't it? But I'm not sure it's something I need to worry about that much today. Is it? But that's every day, isn't it? You're being bombarded with that. And you're like, just go and have I remember, Gary Neville gets to mention quite often on the show, but I remember hearing him say once, like, if you go off what, like the way people talk to him on Twitter, you'd think he was like, his life was in danger. But if he just walks down the street and talks to people, no one's ever said a bad thing to him.
No.
Liverpool fans, Arsenal fans, City fans, they just chat to him.
Yeah,
they're nice.
I've said that before about, when I was doing the rap about, I literally had an Evertonian friend who said to me at one point, a bit worried about you lads, like some of the stick you're getting. And I was like, it's just online,
just Twitter, yeah.
Like nothing happens in real life, never, because it's not real life.
Yeah. Well, I've got a thing on this about death threats. I think people need to stop talking about death threats online. Like, they're not the same. Someone saying to you online, I'll kill you, is not the same as someone saying to you in real life, is it? Just some 12-year-old on the internet. At least
because you don't get to respond in the same way. Yeah. Go on then.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll knock you out, you prick.
Anyway, we got deep there, didn't we?
Yeah.
That is the end of episode 12. Just to reiterate what we said at the start, if you're interested in backing us on Patreon, please do so. Do all the usual stuff as well. Like and share our stuff. Tell your mates, review it. Follow us on all the social media and all the rest of it. And keep on sending your stuff in as well. You can tweet us. You can email us. All the information you need is on the website. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. That has been The Late Challenge.